She is our secretary. We are also joined here by our vice president, Mr. Zach. Unfortunately, our president wasn't able to make it tonight as she is undergoing surgery. She wishes that she could be here, but I will present instead. So a little bit of an introduction of who we are. So we are the Tumbler Ridge Day Society, and we're a not-for-profit organization led by volunteers that is dedicated to providing a wide variety of family and community events to our residents and visitors alike in Tumbler Ridge. The Society has been active since 1988, when volunteers hosted Grizzly Valley Days, a community event consisting of games, a parade, and more for residents of Tumbler Ridge. In the year 2000, in response to the economic downturn in Tumbler Ridge due to the mine closure, the Society founded GrizzFest to help diversify the local economy with tourism dollars. We hosted GrizzFest for about 18 years, bringing acts like Brett Michaels, Trooper, George Canyon, and more. In 2018, we regretfully had to suspend GrizzFest as the event was no longer cost-effective, and we do hope to reintroduce GrizzFest at our fairgrounds location once power is installed.
In 2019, the Society was awarded the lease of land from the District of Tumbler Ridge to develop a permanent fairground site, as events were previously held in temporary locations and required extensive time, effort, and money to set up and dismantle. Thanks to several grants from the District of Tumbler Ridge Community Forest, the NDIT, Northern Development Initiative Trust, and other local organizations, we've been able to complete the construction of a covered stage and pavilion to allow TR Days to permanently host events. In 2022, we hosted 3 large events, including Springo, the Fall Fair, and the Halloween Haunt. Our Springo event was the first event we were able to host in 2 years due to COVID. The Fall Fair, our first event at the fairgrounds, had over 1,000 people in attendance, visiting local vendor booths, a food truck, games, bouncy castles, a competition for residents to showcase their baking, canning, art skills, and more. Our Halloween haunt we also held at the fairgrounds, and we saw just over 600 people just in the haunt itself, despite the atrocious weather that we had. Our Halloween haunt, we saw nearly double that amount inside the Cackling Cauldron, which was our family-friendly Halloween setup, which included visitors to our Harry Potter-themed Diagon Alley. Thanks to the District of Tumbler Ridge, we were able to block off partial road access to bus our visitors safely in and out of the fairgrounds. This year, we're planning once again to host Springo, the Fall Fair, and the Halloween Haunt.
Although the events we held were considered very successful, we did experience some issues. Most notably was related to our lack of power. During both events we held at the fairgrounds, the Fall Fair and the Halloween Haunt, the lack of power source on site created many issues. We were so lucky to have so much amazing support from community members that allowed us to use their generators for both events. Unfortunately, these are temporary and unsustainable fixes. During the Fall Fair, we had issues with vendors requiring power and had to borrow several generators just to get the bouncy castles to work properly. During our Halloween haunt, we struggled with blowing breakers and lighting issues in the haunt that caused concern for safety. Moving forward with events, power is our greatest concern, not just from a functionality standpoint, but for the safety and liability reasons. Our main priority this year is to get power to the fairgrounds to address these issues and allow us to expand our events that we offer. In the future, TR Days looks forward to bringing back GrizzFest, hosting drive-in movie nights, and more. We have also been contacted about using the space for family reunions, weddings, and events for other organizations. Currently, the Society has been diligently preparing for upcoming events and applying for grants to help us move forward. Many grants are exclusionary to us as we only lease the property from the District of Tumbler Ridge. Other grants, such as the recently announced province support for music festivals, are also unavailable to us as we don't have power installed at this time. We would like to thank the previous council for their support, and we look forward to collaborating with this new council to move this project forward and bring more community events to Tumbler Ridge. Thanks.
All right, well, thank you very much. Great delegation. One thing for myself, I'll say from the last council that I sat on, our apologies that power never got installed. I mean, my previous was an ask for the same thing, and we were told, and no, this is nothing against staff, but it could be done in-house. There's some changes that happened, and I don't think it followed through on that process. So I just want you to know that was not the drive from the previous council. Just want you to make sure. Okay, questions from council? Councilor Norbury.
Thank you, Mayor Kakalka. Thank you, TR Days, for coming in and giving us an update on what's going on out there. I was in attendance for your yard hunt. It was a great time, and I know the community really enjoyed it. And you know, with the issue of the powers going on and off, I mean, that just adds to it, right? You know, if everyone in there is scared, if you guys are, if the volunteers are scared, it's adding to the scare factor, right?
Especially when people are running around panicking, trying to get it back on.
It's adding to the ambiance, right? So, well played. It's not a bug, it's a feature. So, you mentioned, so we're going to be talking about your, about getting power out there for you guys, and adding to the viability of GrizFest. With these power upgrades, what's the chances of us bringing GrizFest back in the next few years?
Chances are pretty high. The main concern we have right now is that we don't have power, so GrizFest has to be planned a minimum of a year in advance just to book bands and equipment and stuff. So until we really have a time frame for power, because like trenches need to be dug, which means the ground needs to be leveled out afterwards. Hopefully, within a year or two of having the power installed, we'll have the funds and ability to bring the festival back.
Follow-up, Councilor Norbury.
Thank you, Mayor Kakalka. What would you estimate the costs of having to lease all of those generators and to supply power and fuel costs? What do you think that costs you over the yard hunt? Do you have any idea?
So one of the main generators that we ended up borrowing was from Southpaw. They graciously donated it to us, but it's one of their towers. I'm not sure exactly what the costs are. I could give you an estimation. I could forward an email on to let you know that amount, but costs were high, and especially with the amount that fuel costs right now, having to fill up the generators 5 or 6 times throughout an evening gets pricey.
Right. Thank you. Councilor Julik.
I got to be at the Fall Elf Fair, which is pretty awesome. I was doing the bouncy castle, so I fully understand the bouncy council issue. They have a lot of fun, so I love that you guys are doing so much. I didn't make it to the yard hunt because I don't like being scared, and I've heard that you guys are really good at it, and so I'm not going, but my kid really enjoyed themselves. So as we are talking about your stuff later tonight, I'm just wondering, is $55,000 enough? Like, because I fully appreciate that if you can't get the power in there, it just directly affects anything that you can do out there. And I would say easily that light tower is probably $250 for a day. And that's just the light tower, easily.
That's one.
Yes.
So I will say that the cost that we got back, our last quote was $150,000 to put in power. The $55,000 is really our startup cost for it. We have applied for a lot of grant aids and hope that we'll receive grant aids from other places to make up for the costs. But right now, I'm not sure. It is coming up in the capital amount though, talking about the price, so it depends on that.
Okay. What if they find out that they don't get the grants? Are they able to come back to us or not? Because this is the process on the dates for the grant and aid.
Yeah, I think they can. I have a comment to make at the end there. I think there's a way of not worrying about that.
Okay.
Councillor Klikash.
Yes, have you planned for lighting in this area?
For the haunt, sorry?
No, for the security lighting for the whole area. Do we
Oh.
plan for that?
Yeah, so for the security lighting, there are lights attached to some of the poles around the fairgrounds already. It's just we can't reach. With the current power that we have issues blowing the breakers.
Yeah, okay,
Follow up?
that's great.
Okay. Any more questions from council? I guess I'll make a couple comments, and I have a couple questions for you. My one comment will be is, we do have it in capital, and I think the capital amount budgeted was $150,000 through capital from the district of Tumbler Ridge. So, I was talking with staff earlier in regards to, and I see in the agenda now, whether we give you the 55 and minus it off the capital or keep it in capital, I think that'll be up to council. It might be just a capital item that gets done instead of doing the grant aid for 55, and that'll be the debate we have tonight. Later on in the meeting is it might just stay in capital. Doesn't mean that it won't happen. So I want you to make that aware of. There's some concerns I have in regards to the power where across the street from you, there was, Camp Manway has a 3-phase over there already. I'd like to see how, when we're talking $150,000 is making sure we're doing it the right way. Like there might be a way of tying in over there, and I'm definitely not an electrician, but I know electricians can do everything except for tying in the meter. That I know for a fact. So if there's already a meter over there, I never got a chance to get down there this week to see if there was a meter on the Camp Manway side, but that'll be something I probably ask staff for a report to see if it's there, because really and truly, if it is, it's a lot less work when we do it instead of the quote of 150K. So I'm not sure if you know if it's over there or not, but
There is a pole with a meter on it.
I will say that when we did talk to staff about the 150,000, the 150,000 included putting the pole in. With not putting the pole in, I think it was only like a $2,000 to $5,000 difference.
I heard the same thing, but I'm just curious on that. So my other comments will be about what you've done out there in the last year. I've driven by. I did not make the haunt. I've only think I've made one of you guys' haunts. It's not my forte. I don't like to be scared, I guess. No, I wasn't in town, but I think you guys do a great job. And what you guys have done out there as a board, going through a company, and what you've done out there, it looks fantastic. Look forward to more coming. I know myself, I can't speak on council side, but we're always willing to support things and events that'll happen in Tumbler Ridge. We just got to do it the right way. So, who is your president?
Our president is Terry Cosgrove.
Yeah, I was wondering if she was still the president. That's the only reason I ask. I haven't seen her around. So, any more questions from council? All right. Well, thank you very much for the delegation, and you did a great job.
Awesome, thank you.
Okay. Consent agenda. Recommendation, please. Councillor Julik.
That all items in the February 21st, 2023 consent agenda be moved for information.
Seconder. Councillor Dussault. All in favor? Opposed? Carried. Are there any items that need to be brought forward by council for discussion? Councillor Julik.
I would like to bring 7.4 and 7.6.
Okay. 7.4 to discussion. Seconder. Councillor Dussault. All in favor? Carried. Councillor Julik.
I was really happy to see all this money coming our way, possibly. Mostly, I just wanted to check to make sure that this would be coming back to us once we got all the information, that it would come back to our agenda, whether or not we had the letter specifically. I'd just like to know how much that one part of 1 billion we're getting.
Ms. Torval.
Yes, thank you. We have put, this is for the Growing Communities Funds. So yes, we will come back with a report on this. I'm not sure at this point where staff is aware of this, but I'm not sure where they are with their plans and everything else. So we will definitely bring back a report as to whether what we're going to apply for, and anticipated outcomes from this.
Thank you.
Yes.
Okay, any more discussion in regards to 7.4 from council? Okay, Councillor Julik, you wanted to bring 7.5?
Yeah, so 7.6.
Or sorry, 7.6.
And that,
For discussion, seconder? Councillor Norbury? All in favor? Carried. Councillor Julik.
I was just hoping to get a little bit more information. So, in the letter, they've got our request for our new lease will be 1,000 for the next 10 years. I'm assuming that that means 1,000 a year versus the $2,000, which I'm assuming they have been paying recently, just from reading the letter. And they've also noted that they pay primetime ice fees, which is double the minor hockey rate. So I was wondering if we could get a costing chart, basically what our other user groups are paying and what that kind of looks like, and the history of what the old timers have paid.
Okay, so they have, like for ice time or for their room that they, like that $2,000 is what they pay for their dress room that they have right now, plaques on it says the old timers room?
Okay, I'm just kind of thinking all over, like if they want us to do a lease reduction, I just would like to compare it to what we're charging, period. Like what the old timers, if this is for the ice time, if this is for the dressing rooms, that kind of thing. I just don't have any information on that, and I know you and Councillor Norbury maybe know off the top of your heads, but that's definitely something I don't know, and so to make a knowledgeable decision, it'd just be nice to have that information.
Yeah, so normally when it comes to this in regards to leases like that, we send them back to staff to do the negotiating of a lease.
Okay,
To me, that's what they would do, is look into the fact of what they offer, what they're asking, and they would do the procedure and bring it back to council.
okay, and
Ms. Torval, is that correct?
Yes, Mayor, and through the council, yes, you are correct. And I just want to note that the lease for what they're paying for the dressing room is based on their lease. And what they're paying for their ice time is based on our fees and charges bylaw. So there's two separate things going on here. So just to give you that information for your clarity on the situation.
Yeah, and just to get clarity from Councillor Julik's questions, and when it comes in regards to ice times, I know that they comment in there that they're paying double of the minor hockey, which is under youth or children, and I believe they're paying an adult rate. So is that something the town would negotiate, or is that a policy we would have to change?
It's probably a policy or an amendment to the bylaw for fees and charges, but we would need to look into that further, and we will definitely look into this once we get working on this lease renewal. We have and on that note, lease renewals, we have a number of lease renewals that we will be bringing forward. Some of them have expired and some of them are near expiration date. So, yeah, we're trying to get caught up on everything with COVID and staff capacity. It's been a little hectic at times, but yeah, no, we're getting, we'll bring all those files up to date.
Thank you. Any more discussion from council? Councillor Hoffman.
Thank you, Mayor. I would just, sounds like it's going to be happening anyways, but just to be explicit, if we're going to be doing leases in general, I would like a sense of what size rooms we're talking about. And if staff could also include, like, is there an alternative use for that room? Because if they're looking for a huge discount for a room that would be beneficial in another way, then maybe we can either change the room that they're currently using or something that might make more sense. But it sounds like we're going to be looking at all of that anyways.
Thank you. Any more discussion from council? So I believe staff will need a motion in regards to have this sent back to him to do the negotiations. Is that correct, Ms. Torval?
Thank you. The request came in a little late on the day that we were preparing the agenda. Normally, I would say to minor hockey, like to work with staff, and because we know that their lease is up for renewal. So, yeah, we will be doing it regardless. But if you would like to do a motion to have us work with minor hockey to negotiate their lease renewal, then you can do that as well. Either way, it will be done, but a motion is not required.
That's all I'm looking for, and it's with the old timers, not minor hockey. But yeah, if you don't need a motion, that's fine. I'll just make a couple comments since we're on there and reading through their letter and reaching out to a couple of individuals that are on the old timers, the things they do for our community that we don't realize. And they talk about one of it, and that's in regards to the scholarship program at the high school. I was unaware that actually our old timer hockey individual as an association has actually been giving money back to our youth And I think that speaks highly of the organization and the people that are a part of it. The other thing I know, and I've actually been reached out by some of the people involved, but I know when there's concerns or whatever, maybe individuals not having skates to play hockey, whether it's to come out and play with the old timers or actually play with minor hockey, that the old timers have gotten together to make sure some of the youth in town do have equipment. So that was quite interesting to learn that as well. So I know minor hockey does that, but to hear that our old timers realize that they can participate in stuff like that, I think that is something to definitely make sure they are aware that we know, and to thank them that they're obviously part of the community when they're doing it. It's not just for themselves. So I know they've done some fundraisers through their hockey tournaments and stuff too. So I think they're doing a great job, and I just, if staff can just keep us updated on what happens. All right, anything else the council wants to bring forward? Council Norbury.
Thank you, Mayor Kakaka. 7.5, Dawson Creek Catholic Social Services Society.
Okay, seconder. Councilor Noxana, all in favor? Carried. Councilor Norbury.
Thank you, Mayor Kakaka. So this sort of jumped out at me as this organization is looking for support for an NDIT grant to bring counseling services to our community. I do like how it is non-denominational. So my first thoughts was, this is a Catholic Social Services Society. Are they limiting it to persons of certain denominations? And when I'm reading, it's not the case. So unless there's any other discussion, I'd like to put a motion on the floor.
Any more discussion before a motion? Council Norbury.
Thank you. So I'm just going to read directly from their letter. That the District of Tumbler Ridge supports the application to the Northern Development Initiative Trust from the Dawson Creek Catholic Social Service Society for the Caring Connections Counseling Services Project.
Seconder, Councilor Julich. Any discussion in regards to the recommendation? Okay, call the question. All in favor? Carried. Okay, is there anything else from council? Council Norbury.
Thank you, Mayor Kakaka. I'd like to bring up 7.7, Tumbler Ridge Figure Skating Club.
Okay, seconder, I'll second that. All in favor? Sorry. Carried. Go ahead, Council Norbury.
Thank you, Mayor Kakaka. So I wanted to bring this up just in case you missed it, because they're asking for your support. I'm just joking. I'm just joking. They're looking for someone to MC their skating carnival. I'm happy to put my name forward. I've done it in the past, but I just wanted to bring it up because they're looking for somebody, and throw it to council if anybody else wants to do it.
Okay, yeah, I'll actually speak to it. I've actually already committed to doing it. So I think they put the letter out just for the invite part of it, but they actually reached out to me personally. At this point, I am in town and able. So Councilor Norbury, if you're okay with that, and if something happens and I'm not available, I can definitely lean on you. But at this point, I will be in town, and they did reach out to me personally, and I didn't realize they were submitting a letter. I was just going to bring it up under council business, but I seen the letter when I picked up the agenda. So if council is okay with that. Okay. All right, is there anything else that any councilor wants to bring forward? Okay, moving on to new business. 9.1, 2023 fee for service and grant and aid applications. Report dated February 21st, 2023 from the intern CAO and Director of Corporate Services regarding fee for service and grant and aid applications. Recommendation. Councillor Julich.
Do you want me to read all three?
We can do one at a time.
Okay, number one, that a one-year grant and aid for $55,000 be approved for Tumbler Ridge Day Society for associated works to bring BC hydropower to the fairground site.
Seconder, Councilor Norbury. Discussion. Councilor Norbury.
Thank you, Mayor Kakaka. So I fully support supporting the TRD Society. What they're doing out there is outstanding, and they need this money to bring power so that we can have these events that our society needs, our community needs. But I wanted to sort of talk about the discussion that we are going to be bringing this up in capital projects, and is it appropriate? Should we be approving this now, or should we be waiting for capital discussions and we just take over the project? That's my only thoughts.
Okay, Councillor Julik.
To respond to Council Norbury's statement, because I have a couple of things, I would say yes. I think the sooner that they can get started, so, sorry, let me back that up. I would say let's approve the $55,000 tonight for the grant and aid, because we won't be approving capital projects for a while yet. The budget has to pass, if I'm correct. Okay, so to me, the sooner they know that they have this money in the bank, the sooner they can schedule somebody to get out there. And this, because we all know how quickly things move in the north. And I just think it makes sense. Then they have it, and if that means that we make an adjustment within the capital projects to allow for the 55, but at least if they have the 55, they can get started. So that would be my comment on that. And the secondary thing I just wanted to ask, and maybe this is for a P&P meeting, in the policy it says, once the extraordinary grant account has been depleted, no further requests for assistance will be accepted. So this is on page 43 of our package today, and it's on page 4 of the policy. And so I couldn't figure out what the extraordinary grant account is. And like, so how much is it, and do we use it? Is it?
I can get you that information. For one comment I'll make is, even if we approve, or if this motion passes that's on the floor right now, the $55,000 would not be paid out until the budget is approved. No funds are paid out until all the budget is approved. Okay, Councillor Julik?
Okay, but so if we say that we approved it though tonight, they would know that they were getting that money.
They don't know they're getting it until the budget's approved. The budget doesn't, if the budget doesn't get approved and we have to cut stuff back, it could still be cut back before the budget's approved.
Okay, so realistically, we aren't voting,
To write them a check
Tonight.
tonight, no.
and we're not voting to approve this tonight.
Yeah, we can, yeah, it's on the floor.
Okay, all right.
All I'm
okay.
saying is,
Yeah, I'm
it's
just
not paid
process-
out until the budget is approved.
Okay, and so even if we voted to approve this 55,000, you're telling me that we could change our minds later in the budget process?
Correct. Till the budget is fully approved. At any point, the budget can be changed by council as a whole, by
Okay.
majority,
Oh, okay,
right? All of a sudden, when we come into tax setting, and all of a sudden we're gonna raise our taxes to the district, to Tumbler Ridge residents and stuff at 12%, we might start cutting things out.
I see.
Unless you were to do pre-approved budget, then it's automatically in there.
Because, yeah, that just seems counterproductive, but I'll get used to it, maybe.
And then we'll get the other answers in regards to your questions about the policy.
Okay,
Ms. Torval?
Yes, thank you, Mayor, and through the council, and specifically to Councillor Julik's comments about the budget. What you're doing if council does approve this $55,000 tonight for the Day Society, what that actually does is that's allowing staff to put it in the budget for deliberations when we have budget deliberations, as the mayor had noted.
And then just in regards to the question about the policy that she was reading,
Sorry, could I ask you to repeat that?
Councillor Julik?
so it's on page 4 of 13 of the policy grant and aid, and it's on page 43 of our package tonight, and it's just up at the top. It says, once the extraordinary grant account has been depleted, no further requests for assistance will be accepted. I'm just wondering what the extraordinary grant account is. Have we used it? Does it get used? Is it maybe obsolete and we need to take it out of there?
Ms. Torval?
Oh, okay. I would need to come back with an answer on that one.
Okay. Councillor Noxana?
I'm going to say, because we already have this project in capital grants, can we take it out of tonight's deliberation? Do you need a motion?
No, there's actually a motion on the floor, so this is what we're debating, the motion. So voting in favor would add it, for staff to add it to the budget. And this is what we're debating right now, because I do have some other things to say, but I try to give council a chance first. But Councillor Noberry.
Thank you, Mayor Kakalka. So the way I understand it, if we approve it tonight, we're going to have two budget lines, 150 and 55. Maybe they'll come together. My question, I guess, is to staff, and that's just logistically, would this cause too many issues that we have two cooks in the kitchen trying to bring power to the site? That's my thoughts. Like, I know we can all work together, but sometimes if one group is already going ahead and the other is also working on it, I'm just concerned about a doubling up of costs that don't need to be incurred. I would prefer to have one organization be involved in doing it.
Yeah. I guess I make my comment before I go to staff, just to you, Councilor Mayor, and just on your comment there. That is my concern, and that's why I thought I'd bring it forward, and I made sure the delegation knew which way I was going. To me, when we have it on capital, it's already there, and my understanding when I talk to staff about it, if council does decide to approve the $55,000, that will change on our budget line that has power for the fall fairground, or the fairgrounds. They would take the $55,000 off that budget line in capital and have the regular amount there, plus the 55. So it's gonna be $95,000 in our capital. The problem is, and you just commented on it, who's gonna do the contacting, who's doing the sign off? To me, it's still, yes, it's leased property to TRD Society, but in the end, the District of Tumbler Ridge owns that property, which eventually, just like to me, the pump track will be given back to the District of Tumbler Ridge at one point or another to take the ownership of it. That's kind of what the concern is, but I'll just get clarity from staff on your comments.
Yes,
Storville?
thank you. Mayor, you are correct in what you had just relayed, so. District owns it and.
Good with that, Councilor Burr? Yeah. Councilor Julik? Sorry.
So my concern is if we let this just stay with the district, that's what we did last year and they still don't have any power. So if we want to continue to see them to be able to develop, and volunteer burnout is not a myth, it's a reality, and that there's a lot of work that goes on there. And then when we ask them to piecemeal, I understand that we're the leaseholders. We've trusted them to develop those fairgrounds so far, and I think they've proven that they're very good at what they do and that they get things done. They put on some pretty great things out there already. So I understand that the money's got to go through the district. We don't know what our staffing's going to look like come forward. I just feel like if we authorize them to do the work, because they're not doing the work, they're just hiring people to get it done. You know, with having the conversations with them, as you, Mayor Krakauka, have said tonight about making sure about the power across the street and stuff like that. I would imagine if we ask them about BC Hydro and why BC Hydro has to come in, they'll already know that because they would have had that information from when they looked into it before. So I strongly would like to see them be able to get the money. Like if it comes down to whether they are doing it or we are doing it, I would like to give them the power to go ahead as they've shown they can be successful on their own.
Yeah, and I mean, I'll make a couple comments to your comment there. And one last year it was supposed to be done in-house, and there was some movement of staff that had that come off the table. And I just think with staff trying to fill positions and trying to do it in-house at the same time with an individual maybe no longer on staff made a difference. Again, my concern is the $55,000 to them, the $95,000 to the district. You got two people calling BC Hydro, two people doing this. My understanding in the capital projects when I read it is not in staff doing it in-house. It is actually them hiring a contractor to come in. That's what my understanding of that is. So, Councilor Norbury.
Thank you, Mayor Krakauka. So I completely understand Councillor Julik's frustration. As I remember last year when we approved this, it was tough seeing it not get done. The issue that I see is that their plans are grant dependent. I've been a part of some large projects that grants don't come through and nothing happens. So I'd be more in favor of asking TR Days, because I definitely understand what Councillor Julik is saying is we want to see this project get done. And $150,000 coming from us to BC Hydro, or us going to TR Days to go through BC Hydro, if they feel they can do the project completely, I'd be more in favor of that versus two organizations operating. So, yeah, I think I'd be more in favor of just asking TRDs to do the whole project, and we just give them the pot of money and say, use up what you need. And, you know, we don't need to use staff to do it, right? Well, I mean, obviously they need oversight because it's our spot. But if they'd be willing to take it on. So at this point in time, I think I'd like to just, I think maybe we should defer this to ask them if that's reasonable for them, and then I'd be in favor of $150,000 directly to TRDs so they can get the job done because they are, they're involved in the project. But of course, I'm only one member, kind of curious what other councillors think.
Yeah, so just on that, I will not be supporting the recommendation on the floor for the $55,000 to TR Days Society for the power. Again, I think this is a capital item that District of Tumbler just put in, and to me, it's something to me, it's going to be done this year, and I mean, obviously it can't be done until the budget's approved, but to me, they've already done the legwork and the background checks from our side. I don't know exactly what background TR Days Society has done in regards to contacting BC Hydro and all that stuff. But it sounds like, to me, our staff has already reached out to BC Hydro, understands the pole placements and all that, is my understanding. So that's why I'm more in favor of seeing it stay in the capital project and then having it moved forward at budget conclusion and when weather dependent. But that's my thought. Councillor Julik.
Yeah, Councillor Norbury basically nailed it. That's kind of what I obviously didn't get there, but that's what I was meaning. Like, I would just as soon do the, like, defer this and see if they would be willing to take on the $150,000 and get the project done. But, so that's my feedback on that. That's what I would ultimately like to see. Because that was not a shot at staff or anything. I get it, staff was, I understand it was not a great year for trying to manage staff and all of that stuff. And for me, what if that happens again? Like, I mean, if it's just hiring a contractor and stuff and TR Days is willing to take it on, that's great. If it's just hiring a contractor and that doesn't look like it's going to be a real hardship to staff, bottom line for me is I just want to see it get done.
Thank you. Councillor Hoffman.
Thank you, Mayor. I think just as a general principle, if it's our responsibility, we should take responsibility for it. I would rather have TR Days plan events and work on grants for the little things around their site than be responsible for a contractor. I don't get the impression that they're general contractors or managers of any sense, so I would rather they do the things they like to do as volunteers than manage this. So if we have staff for it, and we just need to get our house in order and these things just need to get done, and I'd prefer that we don't try to pass the buck to volunteer organizations in general. As you said, volunteer burnout's a thing, so let's keep the stressful things out of their lives and let them do the things they like to do for the town.
Thank you, Councillor Hoffman. Any more discussion? So I'll just make a couple comments, and that's in regards to what the delegation said. And they were looking for $55,000 to go out and try to find more money in regards to grants or that. So to me, this is in a capital budget for staff to complete. So again, I'm not in favor of the one-time grant and aid for $55,000. To me, it's a capital project. It was in the capital items when we discussed it. That's how I feel. Council? Councillor Julik?
Just so I can be clear, because that's what I like to figure out that so basically what we're saying is, it's not that we don't want to give them the $55,000, we want to give them $150,000, but we want to take the work off of their shoulders, keep it in-house, and the flavor of all of council is that it gets done this year.
My thing
As
is,
long as it passes in budget, like I get that part.
yeah, like my thing is it's in the capital project coming from staff.
Okay.
Right, so it's not that I want to give the $150,000 to our Day Society. It's just letting it's within a capital item that staff brought forward to do it. Obviously, to me, TR Days had reached out. Staff had realized that it fell off the table last year. We thought we could do it in-house. It didn't happen due to whatever reasoning. The costs were supposed to be quite a bit cheaper than what TR Days could have done it for last year, which I don't think they actually had the right amounts even last year, because they weren't asking for $150,000 last year, I don't believe. So, with staff going in and working with a group, which to me is probably BC Hydro, has found out the more logistic cost of doing it.
Okay, and so is that a high priority? I can't remember on our list.
I can't remember, I'm sorry.
Okay.
Councillor Norbury.
Thank you, Mayor Kakaka. So, yeah, I think Councillor Hoffman made absolutely great points, and like, we're asking a volunteer organization to take more on their shoulders when we could do this, and we have some great staff in place that could manage this project for us, and maybe we'll be able to bring cost savings or limit those cost overages because we have some expertise in-house, because realistically, I mean, I don't want to speak for them, but potentially they might have to bring in just a general contractor just to oversee the project, right? We may be able to offer them cost savings in this project to get it done. When it comes down to priority-wise, this needs to get done this year. If not, that's another discussion for later, but in my opinion, this gets done in-house, this gets done this year, or at least started this year, and if it doesn't, and then we look at some other options.
Yeah, again, I'll just make the comment, I don't think they're looking at doing it in-house. It is looking at hiring a contractor, and I believe it's through BC Hydro, is what I've seen in the capital. So it's nothing in-house, probably a phone call or an email to have them come in, so. Councillor Clickash.
Your worship, does that mean that when we give them 150,000, that we're gonna deduct the costs of putting this power in?
Okay, I think we're gonna get confused. So the motion on the floor right now that was read out is that a one-year grant need for 55,000 be approved to the Tumbler Ridge Day Society for associated works to bring BC hydropower to the fairgrounds site. That's what the motion is on the floor.
Yeah, but are we gonna get the money back if we do it in-house?
Back from who? They're not paying for it.
From this grant that they're supposedly getting?
I think what the delegation has mentioned tonight was they're gonna try and apply for other grants and stuff like that.
No, that's not what I'm talking about. Okay,
Okay, no, maybe I misunderstand you. Go ahead, Councillor Clickash. Like, I wanna make sure we're all clear, so.
well, I understand that they're gonna apply or get a $150,000 grant, right?
No, the $150,000 is from the District of Tumbler Ridge on our capital.
Okay, and it's going to them.
It'd be kept in, if this motion passes, they'll get $55,000.
Okay.
If the motion doesn't pass, it stays with the district, and the district would do the job.
Right, okay.
Clear, though?
Oh, yeah.
Okay. Any more discussion? And I apologize if I confused you. Any more discussion? Okay. Recommendation on the floor, all in favor? Opposed? Motion's defeated. I guess just on that, if maybe staff could reach out to the delegation just to let them know that it's going to stay in our capital line. I know they'd mentioned it, that staff must have talked to them that it was in our capital, so, but just so they're aware and clear that it hasn't been taken off capital. Okay, there's two other recommendations. Another recommendation wants to be read. Councillor Julik.
That a one-year fee for service for $30,000 be approved for Tumbler Ridge Chamber of Commerce to assist with operational costs.
Seconder. Councillor Norbury, discussion? Councillor Norbury?
Thank you, Mayor Kikau. I beat you, Councillor. I saw your hand go up fast. My only comment is, I believe the Chamber of Commerce is actually asking, like, they said $30,000, but in handwritten notes beside their application, they said the costs of the business license fees gained. I'm trying to find it on my PC here, and we're having technical difficulties all around, but I guess my question to staff is, how much did we get in business license fees this year?
So on page 37, and so usually the year that we give them funding is from the previous year of business license. So it would be 2022 business license fees, and that was $22,385.
And so the reason why, thank you for that, Mayor. The reason why I bring that up is just to give some background of this situation we have the Chamber of Commerce, is that it was felt the Chamber of Commerce should be getting the amount of money that they generate in the community. So we get more businesses through the Chamber of Commerce. We assist them based on their hard work. But do we know if the Chamber wants $30,000, if they just want 22? Whatever we'll give them?
Yeah, I think it's going to be up to council. I'm not sure if Ms. Torval has that information. Ms. Torval?
No, I'm not sure. Sorry, Mayor.
Okay.
Through the council.
So just on that, I mean, whether we defer it tonight or not, but I believe there was a recommendation or a policy put into place in regards to funding the chamber, and I believe that was done a few years ago, that they would get up to the business license fees from the previous year. That policy might have expired. There might have been a timestamp on that. I can't remember, but that might be worth looking into. just in regards to your comment, Councilmember. Councillor Gillick.
I have a couple questions on the policy itself, and then I have a question about their financials. So I'll start with the policy on page 78 of our package, or page 2 of the fee-for-service policy. It talks about be able to demonstrate that they are able to match the district's contribution in either other donation dollars or in-kind services. And I didn't really see that within the application. I could have just missed it. That's not my primary concern. My other concern is just below that. It talks about groups or organizations must have a defined governance structure. And then when it comes over to the next page, it talks about conditions, and it's a copy of the organization's constitution and or governing bylaws. So again, this is something possibly that I would just like to bring back to policies and the P&P meeting.
Okay, so
Remember the-
what clarity are you looking for in regards to that?
What I'm looking for is, like, I don't know who determines, like, how do they determine that they have a defined governance structure? How, like, what is the measuring piece for that? And then.
Second, Ms. Torval?
Thank you, Mayor, through the council. The Chamber of Commerce is a little different in that they are a board of trade. So they're not not the same as your usual organization. So they are a board of trade. They do have a structure. They do have a board of directors, and with an executive director that they have employed. And I believe the remaining directors are volunteers. Yes.
Okay.
So, so if that's how they're, like, so if that's how they're determined, that's fine. I guess because after my volunteer time here in Tumbler Ridge, my concern is more about this policy specifically, is that a lot of our not-for-profits do blueprint off of the Government of British Columbia's website for their bylaws. Perfectly fine. What I find, though, is that there's no policies in place, and that tends to get everybody into trouble. And I think that it's kind of our responsibility as a council, if we're giving them money, is to help them develop those things. And I can tell you that as somebody who was in positions that I shouldn't have been because I didn't have any policies to guide me. And I think when we have so many volunteers, and that's not in their forte. So I'm not saying that it has to be, so this part probably just needs to be back at a P&P, and I can ask for that. But I think we need to do more to support our not-for-profits, because they do a lot of stuff. And if they're like me, they don't even know that the policies are something that'll save their lives. So, and then, I see on page 95, the district kindly gave the chamber an equivalent to business license fees in 2022. So that is what I'm assuming Councillor Norbury is talking about, that so whatever the District of Tumbler Ridge collected for business license fees went directly to the chamber. That was how we supported them. Okay.
It
Mike.
talks about that in the background, too.
Okay, good. Just wanted to clarify that. My concern is their profit and loss statement. They're running at a deficit, and the numbers, so they're running at a deficit even though one of their lines, so they were given $21,835 from us, from the District of Tumbler Ridge. Then they got $41,416.48 for shop local funding. From what I can tell there, the only money that they spent for that was $24,199.87. And they're running at a $5,300 deficit. So I have some concerns about giving them more money without maybe a little more information.
Okay, so something like that on there, and I kind of agree with you, I went through it like that. I think we can always ask them to come in as a delegation, like the board. I don't think that's a bad thing. I mean, I have some of the same questions when I see that they were funded for this, but there might be a reason on where those dollars went that they were allowed to spend them elsewhere. I'm not sure. So, Councillor Noxana.
I would agree that maybe we need them to come in and talk, or just have some more questions answered, because my biggest question was, what is their membership sitting at? And I think it is asked in our application process, and it's not clearly answered. Do they have 100 businesses as members? Do they have 20? On their website, they have about 40 listed, but I'm not sure if that's a complete membership. So I'd just like to know how many businesses in town specifically are chamber members and utilize their services.
Okay. So just something with the chamber, and it was something I learned, I guess, is you don't have to be a business to be a chamber member. It's a membership, right? So you don't have to have a business to be a chamber member. So it's not always businesses that are members. Sometimes it's, you know, obviously there's home-based businesses, but you actually do not have to have a business to be a member of the chambers. I didn't know that. Okay, so we have a motion on the floor in regards to that. We can defer it, or we can pass it. I'm not sure what council wants to do, or we can, instead of deferring it, see where council sits, and if anything, come back and do it at a different time, or we can just defer it and staff keep track of it. Councillor Hoffman.
Thank you, Mayor. I would like to defer, and I would like to make a motion, if it's appropriate at this time, that we invite the delegation to come in, because I also have questions for them directly, including, I don't get a sense of what they really do.
Okay, so if you want to put a motion to defer?
Okay, I would like to move that we invite the council chamber.
No. First, we need to do a motion to defer.
Sorry.
And then we can do the next motion you're talking about.
First motion to defer that 1-year fee for service for $30,000 be approved for the Tumbler Ridge Chamber of Commerce to assist with operational costs.
Okay, second on the deferral, Councillor Julik. Discussion on the deferral. Okay, all in favor of the deferral? Opposed? Carried. Councillor Hoffman.
Thank you. And the second motion is to invite the board or head of the chamber to send a delegation to explain some of the various questions that council has.
So I would, before we second it, I would like to see that we invite the board.
Okay, the whole board?
And, well, the board, if the president just shows up, so be it. It just, instead of just staff, like if they decide to bring their employee, that's the board's choice. But to me, we're funding the chamber, which is to the board, who oversees the employee. So we definitely want to meet the president. I would maybe mention that before we second it. I don't want to change your motion, but that's why I didn't want to.
No, I will edit the motion to specifically invite the president of and the board of the Tumbler Ridge Chamber of Commerce for to send a delegation.
Seconder, Councilor Dussault, discussion. I'm just going to confirm with staff that staff has that. Councilor Norbury?
Thank you, Mayor Kukalka. My only thoughts would be, would it be appropriate for us to prepare some questions for them beforehand so they can have some information available for us? I know it is difficult on the spot to answer questions you may not be prepared for. I don't think we're live streaming, so they probably, oh, we are, so they'll be able to get some information. Okay, if we're live streaming, they can refer back, then I don't have any issues. So I support the motion on the floor.
Okay. Any more discussion? Okay, call the question. All in favor? Opposed? Carried. Councilor Norbury.
Thank you, Mayor Kukalka. I'll move number 3, that the Royal Canadian Legion branch number 268 Tumbler Ridge be approved for a golf course tournament waiver for green fees and carts.
Seconder, Councilor Julik. Discussion. Councilor Hoffman.
Thank you, Mayor. I think we've discussed this before, but could I get a clarity of, this is standard practice that we've generally done? And is there a different fee structure, or do we just say, okay, you're holding a tournament, here's the support for the town for that tournament?
Ms. Torval?
Yes, thank you, Mayor, and through the council. This is coming from the approved exempt events policy. And so, of course, if we're approving events, then they need to be factored into budget.
You all good, Councilor Hoffman? Okay. Any more discussion? Call the question. All in favor? Carried. Okay, 9.2, BC Hydro fast charging stations. license of occupation agreement. Report dated February 21st, 2023, from the intern CAO, Director of Corporate Service, seeking approval of license of occupation with BC Hydro for fast charging station installation. Councillor Julik.
That council authorizes the mayor and corporate officer to execute a license of occupation agreement with BC Hydro for the purpose of allowing BC Hydro to install, operate, and maintain 2 electric vehicle fast charging stations on Southgate.
Seconder, Councillor Norbury. Discussion? Okay, I guess my only question would be back to staff. I was in and asked the same question. Oh, sorry, Councillor Hoffman.
Go first, it's all good.
You go ahead.
So I understand we have 2 charging stations in front of the info center. How much do they get used? I'm wondering, is there any real demand for this in town at this point in time?
Ms. Dorval.
Thank you, Mayor, and through to council. It's a very good question. I believe we have 1 charging station in front of the FIC, and I believe there will be a demand for these charging stations as the the popularity of electrical vehicles become more prevalent. I think maybe we would be seeing more electrical vehicles within the area if there were charging stations, because right now there aren't that many. This is part of this is before you tonight, this is a part of an initiative by BC Hydro working with the federal government. It was called Charging Up the North, and we have been in discussions, if you would call it that, with BC Hydro since 2020. So we've known that this is coming, and it is of no charge to the district. The only thing we're required to do is just keep snow away and debris away for them. So.
Follow-up, Councillor Hoffman.
I guess I'm just making it obvious. I'm just not free to the town, why would I say no type thinking, but I'm just not convinced. I'm just not convinced that EV in the north is going to be a thing ever, if anytime soon. So I see the spot where it was taken. I mean, I appreciated the map, by the way. That was very helpful for getting a sense of this. But honestly, is there even a person in town with EV right now? Like, oh, there is? Okay. That's fine. Notwithstanding, I'm assuming the homeowner has their own charging station. But, okay, I'm going to leave it at that. I just don't know, and I'm just trying to wrap my head around the north being a push for EV stations at this point in time.
Appreciate it, and just want to make sure it's well known that it's not myself that has one. It was a comment made earlier, so I do not have one. Councillor Julik.
I think for me, it just seems peculiar, but if BC Hydro wants to pay for their power, I don't know how they work. Maybe they have to pay for them to plug them in. I don't know. I agree with Ms. Torville. I see that a change is coming. My concern though with it is in the lease, it does actually say that we will provide and install in-town wayfinding signs directing drivers from nearby highways and freeways to the DCFC station if the host is a local or regional government. So I would say we're a local government, and that is on page 119 of our package. So it's the second page of the lease. So that would be my concern. We're providing any costs.
Ms. Torval?
Thank you, Mayor, through the council. That would be adding to our existing signage. And also with this, if you log on to the BC Hydro site, they have what's called, I think it's called Plug Charge. And if you go onto their site, they'll show you where all their, I guess it's an app. And if you're driving through and in your electric vehicle and you want to get charged, you pull up your app and it'll show you where all the EV stations are located. So you'll know how to get to the closest EV if you're running out of juice.
Okay, follow-up, Councillor Julik.
I will say then, if they're looking for us to provide signage without a price attached to that, I don't know how excited I am about that. I would probably be voting against it, simply just for that reason. Like if BC Hydro wants to put it in and it's all at their cost and all we have to do is move the snow around it, I'm okay with it. But I have no desire to spend any money because once there are signs, then we got to replace them and fix them and all of that good stuff. So that's my only point against it.
guess just back to Mr. Orville, do you have a cost or does staff have an estimated cost?
I will check with Mr. Bradley to see if there's an estimated cost for signage. Not at this time.
Okay, thank you. Councillor Nober.
Thank you, Mayor Kukalka. I think this is one of these situations where we can either be a part of the future or we can let it pass us by. Electric vehicles are happening. One of my close friends has an electric vehicle. I'm debating about looking at an electric vehicle for my next vehicle. Because why not? The cost is cheap. You can plug them in at home. And, you know, and BC Hydro, they want this to be part of the north. When we think about the logistics of how we're going to get around the north with an electric vehicle, if we don't have high-speed power stations, they're just going to skip us. We're going to lose out on all of that. And I could easily see tourings of the north with electric vehicles, let's do the Tesla tour or what have you. And if we don't have some high functioning power chargers in our area, we're just gonna miss out on that. So even just as a trickle, I think it's worthwhile for us. Cost of signage, I can appreciate us not wanting to enter in negotiations for unknown costs, but signs versus these chargers, I don't see that holding me back. So I'm in complete favor.
Okay, thank you. Councillor Hoffman.
Thank you, Mayor. Appreciate your enthusiasm, Councillor Norbury. I just am not convinced that the technology is at a point where this is going to, in the next 10 years, overtake and be a huge thing. That said, when I'm looking at what we are potentially part of through a BC Hydro program, that's really the part more that I would be interested in, that we go on the website as part of those towns in the north and the road trips come through. I could see a value there, and I'm putting my town ahead of my general sense of the value of this project that BC Hydro is doing. I think I've managed to convince myself in the last 3 minutes that I'm going to vote for it, but despite the less than stellar analysis of the technology going on. But yeah, I think being part of and allowing for a few Tesla tours and for the cost of signage, I'm fine with. Doesn't mean I think it's a good idea overall.
Thank you. Councillor Noxana.
I like this project. I like where it's located. We talk so much about our downtown core and how we can get more traffic. This is exactly a way to get more traffic. People can park right there, walk downtown, walk to our visitor center. There's a trail behind our visitor center. It's just a good project and a good location.
Thank you. So, apologize, Councillor Hoffman, when I started talking, I didn't see your button up there earlier, so my apologies. So I went in and talked to staff, and I know, I just heard that we like the location, and I have some concerns with the location. And the reason I say that is it comes in regards to snow removal. If you have a look over there, the other day when we had all the snow, we have big piles of snow exactly where they're looking at putting these charging stations. And the concern I have that is, oh, we're not gonna put the snow there, we're gonna put it somewhere else, is I'm not sure when this picture was taken. I asked when this picture was taken. This was still when we had our old visitor center. So the new visitor center is not even built. Canoe was not in operations. At this time right now, Canoe takes up pretty much that one whole side where the garbage cans are with their office vehicles and company trucks. During the day, you cannot fit 2 vehicles down there if you're going to the post office with all the vehicles and the snow removal. So I guess my question back to staff is in regards to that, the snow removal. Is this going to affect staff when it comes to snow removal of that parking lot with the overwhelming use of the parking lot in the last couple of years? Mr. Orville.
Thank you. I'm not the expert on snow removal, so I will defer to Mr. Bradley. Mr. Bradley?
This will not affect snow removal. We will accommodate whatever the situation is in that parking lot.
Okay. And then I guess just back to Mr. Orville, now with the new Geo-Interpretive Center going to be, coming on stream, again, snow removal is going to be, is it concerned to me when we look at where these are located? At this point, I know that the district seems to have that stockpiled in that same corner. And to me, when that parking lot's so tight, I just want to make sure staff is on top of it. We're not going to have concerns coming in 2 years from now with regards to snow removal or location to put snow. Torval?
Thank you, Mayor, and through the council. Staff is not concerned with the snow removal. We're quite confident that it can be handled, taken care of.
Okay, thank you. Councillor Julik?
I think I'm kind of on the same page as everybody. Like I'll live with the nominal cost of signage, what it'll probably be there. But I would say one of the concerns I would have now that Mayor Kakauka has brought this up, one of the things when I was part of the Geopark and the Visitor Center, we do not have ideal parking for bigger rigs. And that is one of the places that bigger rigs can get into and turn around. This will limit some of that access. While I fully agree with Councillor Noxana, like we try to get people to the downtown core, we talk about that a lot, but maybe we need to look at a different place. I don't know what that would be. Like maybe it would be better to be over by the visitor center, because the issue is that I'm going to say the steepness, there's probably the grade going in and out of the visitor center does not allow for bigger rigs because they're dragging and all of that stuff. Whereas if it's an electrical vehicle, they could possibly do better over there. And there's quite a bit of space over there. And then they're close. It's a little bit farther from our downtown core, but they're charging their vehicle. What else are they going to do? They can't drive. I'm sorry, I'm being facetious. But yes, I would say maybe we need to look at a different place.
Ms. Torval?
Thank you, Mayor, and through the council. There is commercial parking out near the cemetery, so for those larger trucks, and they have been using that area. The location, I know you have some concerns regarding the location. BC Hydro has been to town a number of times, and when they first started talking to the district regarding this initiative, they wanted it. Part of the install was that it would be located in a downtown area, close proximity to the local businesses, coffee shops or whatever, so that when someone is in and they're charging their vehicle, they can perhaps run over to the Vic, or they can run over to the coffee shop. Well, there were coffee shops there when we talked about this, or run to the grocery store or whatever. And yeah, so it's kind of like central, downtown, all within walking distance.
Okay, thank you for that. Councillor Julik?
To clarify, it wasn't big rigs that I was talking about. It was like holiday trailers and trucks and motorhomes and stuff. The visitor center cannot accommodate those because of the grade on the trucks. Like they drag hitches and that kind of stuff. Some stuff can get in there, but some stuff cannot. And so unless that's changed since I was part of that organization, but I don't think it's changed that much because the grade is still the same. So that was my concern there. And then there's not, yeah, so and because of the limited parking, so if you get a Class A motorhome in there and they park, like there's not like in the immediate parking spaces there, like it takes up too much, like the paved areas, like they would have to move over. Don't get me wrong, I don't think that they have to park on a paved area. I just know that this area is where they are often guided, and I've seen people park there, and that station would be in the way, particularly with the new geo-interpretive center, I think. Obviously, I'm not a town planner or anything, but I just think that I have some concerns about that location, and that's for the RV, not the commercial truck traffic. My other thought is, did they look down the lower parking lot at the community center? That would be the other thought of mine, because that is still.
Councillor Milbury?
Thank you, Mayor Kukalka. I would be inclined to listen to what BC Hydro is looking for. I mean, there's lots of pros and cons why we put it here, why we put it there. You know, I'd rather us continue to move forward with this project versus sort of hold it up. I think there's a good spot. I mean, people may be coming here to see our geo-interpretive center. I mean, it makes sense to have it closer to downtown. Maybe we put it in the downtown parking lot. Maybe, you know, this is something that we can discuss moving forward, because there's times when, you know, there are opportunities for more input, but I'd hate us to hold up bringing EV to our community because we want to debate where it goes. I just want to see, I would just like to see EV in the area. And if we have concerns about Kanuma taking up too much of that parking, well, maybe that's a discussion we have with Kanuma, but I think we need to get this happening sooner rather than later so that we're not missing out on EV potential.
Yeah, so I'll make comments. I'm not against the EV or anything like that. Again, I think our job, and I think staff has done a great job going out and looking. We need to make sure that we understand that the implications when we agree to having it located somewhere. So I see it. I have a business downtown, and I'm downtown a lot. I see it in the summertime, and Councilor Julie can just mention it. The amount of RVs that go into that parking lot with boats on them or pulling vehicles. And all of a sudden, you take off a corner with charging stations. I'm not against it. But to me, it needs to make sure that we're in the right location so that we don't install them and go, oh, now what do we do? Well, we'll have to try to find a place for all these RVs to park. That's my concern. And to me, and I'm not at all disrespecting Canadian for taking up parking stalls. They have a very large office building that employs a great amount of people in that building. That's why those vehicles are there. So when you look at that, it just need to me, and I'm not saying that staff didn't go and look at the right location. We need sometimes to make sure that we're agreeing that it's the right location for what we're trying to install there. It's not about holding the process up, not about stopping the process. Again, I just want to make sure that the flow happens in regards to people getting in and out of parking lots when they do come to tour our community. That's my only concern there. Councillor Julik?
We have to remember this is 10 years. Like, we send them this lease for 10 years, we're in it for 10 years. Like, I know that there's some accommodations within the lease that we can change that out, but that's a fairly big expense if we say, oh yeah, go ahead and do this. I'm still on the same page as Mayor Kakauka. I think we have to be very forward-thinking with a little bit of a crystal ball as to what the future looks like. We don't have a ton of public parking in downtown. Like, that's why for me, why not take a place that we have a little bit more room at? And I guess part of it for me too is BC Hydro come in and this is their want. This is where they think is the most. How much input did we get from the folks at the visitor center? How many times do they get a complaint around, I got no place to park, that kind of stuff? Because they also will park just right there on Southgate and take up a lane of traffic. I think we just have to be like, take a breath. I don't think that a phone call is saying we don't want to do it. I think if we're really clear with BC Hydro and say, really want to do this, we just want to make sure that we aren't in 2 years saying, holy crap, we had a big burst in population and now we don't have room. Because we do have to accommodate, from what I understand, that parking lot is to accommodate the folks in that other building. So that includes the bank and BC Liquor, and we don't know what those other buildings might look like in the future. We have very limited downtown parking by the pharmacy and Lush Desserts and that kind of stuff right now too. So those are my concerns, and I would like to put a pause just to get some more feedback from BC Hydro and staff.
Just before Councillor Norbury, Ms. Torval, just in regards to, just a couple of comments Councillor Julik mentioned in regards to, talking to other partners and stuff like that in regards to the location that was selected. Can you maybe just give an overall view that, I know staff's been working on this, it was something previous council had started the process, and just on who you guys, if you talk to the Vic Centre and such.
Thank you, Mayor, and through to council. We didn't consult any of the other places around that particular area. Back in, I think it was 20 or 21, I believe I know that council gave direction for staff to move ahead with this project with BC Hydro, and for staff to work with BC Hydro to select a location for these charging stations. Staff came up with 4 locations and discussed with BC Hydro, and BC Hydro chose this particular location because of the location of where it is with regard to, the tourists or drivers or car owners being able to walk around the downtown and visit while their vehicle is being charged. So this is where we are at today with the vehicles, the charging stations.
Thank you. Councillor Norbury?
Thank you, Mayor Kakauka. Just sort of thinking about the landscape of our community and where else we could possibly put this. We have a parking lot that has 2 ins and outs. We do have space over there. The other options in the community would be looking at downtown parking lot, behind the community center, which only has one way in, one way out, plus where they might be going. There's a lot of children going from the teen center to the skate park. That I think that could create more congestion. Visitor center, we've already said, it's not a great spot. you know, then we're kind of getting farther and farther from our downtown community. If we've already had discussions with BC Hydro about this, I think we have the spot. You know, I think this is it. I'm happy with their choice. Staff have already worked with it. Let's move forward.
Thanks, Councilor Albert. Any more discussion? Okay, call the question. All in favor? Opposed? Carried. Council attendance for upcoming 2023 trade shows. Report dated February 21st, 2023 from the Executive Assistant regarding approval of funds for councilors' attendance at the 2023 trade shows. Recommendations, Council Noberry.
That council approves funds for up to 2 councillors to attend the 2023 trade shows.
Seconder. Councillor Hoffman. Discussion. Okay, call the question. All in favor? Carried. (9.4) Resolution of council required for grant application. Report dated February 21st, 2023 from the Executive Assistant seeking council support for the Chamber of Commerce grant application regarding shared workspace project. Recommendation. Councillor Julik.
The council supports the Chamber of Commerce grant application to NDIT for funding for the shared workspace project.
Seconder. Council Noberry. Discussion. Okay. Councillor Julik.
Sorry, let me find where I highlighted it, which means I had a thought or two. Oh, I'm not really sure what they're looking for. Like, so I read this, and so are they just looking for a letter like the health people? Like, so request a resolution of council required for the grant application for shared workspace for the Tumbler Ridge Chamber of Commerce. I don't see where there's, I need clarification. Can somebody that understands it a bit better give me?
Yeah, we're just supporting their grant application to NDIT
Okay, so,
for their letter. Sorry.
sorry, I can't-
No, sorry. Yeah, sorry. Council.
okay, so we're just saying, yeah, we think that this is a good idea. We're not, this doesn't commit us to anything else. That was my biggest thing. Okay.
Council Norbury.
Thank you, Mayor Kukalka. From what I understand, most grant applications that NDIT require a letter of support from the municipality that you're going to be operating in. So that's all this is. This doesn't commit us to any funding on our side or committing ourselves to anything. But if you're looking for more information about the shared workspace project, it was in their grant and aid application. I'm in full support of their co-workspace. I think we're already seeing it in Tumbler Ridge. Ridge Power Sports Marine is the perfect example of what people I think are needing to do in today's commercial landscape. You got to share spaces, and this could potentially bring some professionals that wouldn't be able to come to Tumbler Ridge an opportunity. So I would like to see them succeed, and I support the application.
Thank you, Councilor Norbury. Any more discussion? Okay, call the question. All in favor? Carried. Schedule of meetings. Budget meeting next Monday. Okay, everybody's good there? Meeting follow-up action list. Not sure if council had a chance to, if everybody looked through it and if anybody has questions in regards to it. Oh, Ms. Torval, sorry. Just seen you.
Sorry.
If it was on our schedule of meetings, I apologize.
Yes, schedule of meetings. I'm wondering if council would like to reschedule another zoning bylaw workshop to get through the zoning bylaw recommendations, to continue on from last week.
Can we just send out a doodle poll on what regular meeting of council would be? The council will all be here. We just send out a doodle, whether it's March 6th, March 20th.
We were looking at possibly a separate day, because
yeah?
it's gonna
Yep.
take longer than an hour and a half. So maybe an afternoon or a morning.
Can we just send out maybe an email?
Mind you, it could be on a council day, it's just that it would be a longer day for you.
I think if we could just send out an email, if that's all right, just in case anybody's away or what, just so people can look at their schedules and determine if they can make it.
Okay,
Perfect.
thank you. Sorry.
No, I apologize for missing you. Oh. Go ahead, sorry.
Looking at the schedule of meetings coming up, I'm wondering if council would like to schedule or talk about doing a Let's Talk?
Yep. I think there was talk about April at one point. Not sure from council's side what April looks like. Councilor Jilic?
April is definitely better for me.
Councilor, no, oops, sorry, go ahead.
And spring break is the last 2 weeks of March, so I think we would get a few more people. Lots of folks leave for spring break.
Thank you for that. I was just about to say about spring break. Councilor Norbury?
Councillor Julik already said what I was gonna say. April probably better. Spring break in the end of March. Yeah, makes April, seems like the best time. Maybe we can send out another doodle poll with our previous one.
So it's going to come up in councilor's business. I did have a meeting with Northern Health. So just looking at it, trying to figure, I did invite them to come to a Let's Talk. Their suggestion was they are in negotiations with nursing contracts or through the union, April 19th, which is a Wednesday. We can still send it out in an email, but talk a little bit more about it in regards to during council's business. I did have a meeting with Northern Health, and I asked them so kindly if they would join us at a Let's Talk. I think it would be a great thing to have them there. More clarity in regards to what's going on. So if council's okay, if we just send out an email, if the 19th doesn't work, I mean, they are open to possibly other days. At this point with them, and that's why I was trying to pull up my email, is the 19th seemed like it was probably going to be the best for Northern Health. That doesn't mean we work our schedule around Northern Health. Councillor Jilic?
These generally run closer to the evening, yes?
Yeah, they're in the evening. Yes, I think we usually start at 6 to 8, and sometimes you're there till 10, depends on what
19th
residents
works
approach.
for me if it does for Northern Health. I think that's a good idea. Lots of people have lots of questions, as long as they're comfortable being a little on the hot seat, probably.
Yeah, I'll talk about it more in council business. I don't want to take away from that part. Councillor Norbury?
Thank you, Mayor Kaka. 19th is good for me. Let's let Northern Health take the opening seat though, and yeah, maybe that'll feed into our conversation later.
So I guess I just suggest if council gets a chance, look at your calendars at home. If April 19th does work for us as council, I mean, it's great to have everybody there to Let's Talk. If we could just email Ms. Torval to let them know that April 19th does work. Usually, we'll be able to discuss budget then as well. We'll have a better handle where we are on the budget and stuff like that, and be able to have that discussion. And then it's up to the residents of Tumbler Ridge to have questions for council or our guests. So, okay. Anything else, Ms. Torval, before I move on? Sorry, I apologize. Too much on my desk. Okay, in regards to fuel, the meeting follow-up action list, is there anything there that council has questions about? Okay. Any notice of motions? Okay. Councilor Norbury brought forward cost and logistics for weekly garbage pickup. Councilor Norbury brought forward the following notice of motion. Councilor Norbury.
That staff prepares a report on the costs and logistics of offering garbage pickup services every week while maintaining recycling pickup every 2 weeks.
Okay, seconder. Councilor Dussault. Discussion. Councilor Norbury.
Thank you, Mayor Kakaka. So I've had a few residents bring this up to me, and, some people have, I would also like to get a little more information on what the cost would be. I do know that you can rent another bin every year, but also, why don't we come up with some costs to tell our community what it would cost us to offer an additional garbage pickup? Is it half a staff member? Is it a full staff member? Is it a whole new truck? Because I think this is important that we just get the information out to people. Yeah, I just would like to see.
Yeah, and I appreciate your motion. I mean, and I know have people reached out to me, and, I've had, light discussion with Ms. Torval, and, I've put some numbers in my own head. I mean, that's not my job, but, I think we'll get an eye opener. Before I go to Councillor Julik, so I've heard comments on residents talking about this second garbage can, and Councillor Norbury, you just brought it forward. Can we just have those costs from the district so it's clear? I mean, I've heard probably 5 different prices.
Okay.
I know what the price is. I was unaware that there was another cost to it until I looked it up. But there's 2 costs. There's a cost of the bin, and then there's a cost of the pickup for yearly pickup. If we just have those costs from staff, that way those numbers are clear, because there's been $400 thrown out, there's been $500 thrown out to me, and I'm like, no, they're not that much. So if staff could just answer that.
Yes, thank you, Mayor, and through the council. And I was going to say that in our solid waste bylaw, garbage pickup, recycle thing, there is the option to, if a resident wish to purchase an extra bin, they could for $150. So that's for for that second bin. And then they would be charged for the pickup at $175 a year, which works out to $3.50 per pickup.
Thank you for that. Way better clarity than when the numbers people gave me, because I know I had to look it up, so I appreciate that. But I also appreciate your motion, Councilor Norbury, in regards to that. Realizing when the information, the report comes forward, realizing is there a new garbage truck required? Is it another full-time staff? You hit on topics there. Before I go to Councillor Julik, Councillor Hoffman, I want to give you an opportunity. I know we had this discussion when the notice of motion came on the floor at our last regular council meeting, and you had some comments, and I'm just wondering if you wanted to discuss.
There's no need for it to cut ahead. I can press my button and
Okay.
continue.
Okay, Councillor Julik.
Can you clarify for me that the 150 is the cost? They never have to pay that cost again?
Correct, they own the bin.
Okay. Because I know, in my estimation, staff's pretty busy. I think that when this stuff came forward, bottom line, I will just say that I'm not going to support it. I think that if you need a second bin, you need a second bin. I think that they've been doing this for a while. Yeah, not that I don't agree that it's kind of nice to have that information, but at the same time, not that I don't agree that it's nice to have that information. The bottom line for me is these are your options. Yeah, they could come back with a report, but that's just more work. And I look at our fuel report, and there's not stuff being able to come back on that. And for me, this is something that's easily picked up. It's unfortunate. I have a neighbor who has 3 bins. They've just bit the bullet and said, I'm just going to pay for it because they know that they do more garbage than they do recycle. I think that we have a good system here. I take extra garbage that I don't get to put in my bin up to the dump, and I understand if, maybe there's some folks out there that don't have that option, and so I still think that I think then you need to be a bit more, never mind, really, sorry, I'm not in favor.
Councilor Norbury.
Thank you, Mayor Kakaka. So what this also, I think, will bring to us is just clarity, right? Because I remember when the recycle program rolled out, people were surprised that there wasn't garbage every week. So there's times when I think, we need to look into things for our residents, and our residents, if it is just one man, we hire one person, would our residents want to pay for that? Maybe, because what would that actually mean in terms of their entire budget? I would also like to see in the report, if it passes, what's the logistical cost of just having larger bins?
Sorry, what was that?
Larger bins. So our garbage bins are significantly smaller than, well, maybe not significantly, but they're smaller than our recycle bins. What if we just had larger garbage cans? Which I think was what Councillor Hoffman was discussing. I mean, that could go in the report, but at this point in time, I just want some information so that we can pass it on to the public, because I think one of the things that always happens, it doesn't always happen, but does happen, is that if we don't fill an information void in our community with information, people are going to make up their own misinformation. So this is the purpose behind this, as well as information for us.
Okay, appreciate that. Councillor Hoffman.
Thank you, Mayor. And that is what I was talking about before, is that in some shape, fashion, or form that we increase capacity as, and I've heard that as well around town, that people were not happy with having their garbage pickup cut in half, and that's fine. And I think that's really what it needs to be based around if we're going to do this, is there a way that we can increase capacity at a reasonable cost to the town?
So when you sorry, Councillor Hoffman, to cut you off. When you talk about capacity, are you talking about larger bins?
I am talking about whatever the solution is that we look at, that we increase capacity for garbage. That could be larger bins. It could be that we stick with the second bin purchasing. It could be adding, I can't imagine that it would be cost effective. It could be back to garbage every week. I don't believe that that'll work out, but, or upgrading a bin if we want to, instead of the ones that we give, that we let people pay for a larger bin and don't have to incur a cost for pickup, whatever it is. But I've heard, and that's just it, whether I agree with it or not, because as you said, Councillor Julik, that I just take the bags and dump them myself, and that's just not a big deal since I live less than 2 minutes from that location. But enough people have brought this up that I think it's reasonable for us to look into it and at least tell them that we looked at it and that it's not a reasonable cost, or here you go, here's your options going forward. So I am going to support this. I think enough people in town want to know about this that I think we should look into it.
Thanks, Councillor Hoffman. Any more discussion? So I'll support the recommendation on the floor as well. And the reason I will is I think it's great. When we implemented this, when I was on the previous council, implemented recycling and stuff like that, you know, we had some ballpark numbers and what the complications may or may not be came back to us. You know, whether we're making money on recycle, whether it was this or that. So we ended up getting that report back and had some information. And, you know, I'll say we never followed back up when we went to 1 week garbage, 1 week recycle. Seemed to work until, you know, and I've heard the complaints. I've heard them in person face to face, and that's why I had different numbers for a second garbage can. But I think it's worth having that report come back from staff, and it gives us the true figure. And that's a figure that this council can debate if they think that's a service for the amount that it costs to implement. And I think that cost is quite significant when you look at the whole picture. If we want to add the concept, and maybe staff will do it on their own, but I'd like to get clarity from staff if they're going to need an alternation to that motion when we talk about bigger bins. Because right now, I'm not sure, again, I'm not going to get into staff's job, but when they bought that garbage truck, I believe they bought it for certain sizes to hold certain capacity in regards to weight. But if we want that added, do we need another, do we need to amend this motion, or will staff just capture that, if I can ask Ms. Torval?
Thank you, Mayor. Staff will capture, we have that.
Okay, thank you for that.
Need to amend.
Okay. Any more discussion? Okay, call the question, all in favor? Opposed? Carried. If I may, I'd like to defer 10.2, the Youth Council Terms of Reference. Mayor Calker brought forward the following motion. I'd like to defer that. So I'll put a motion to defer. I get a seconder. Councilor Norbury, discussion. The reason I'm asking to defer this, we have a meeting set up with the high school. So I'd just like to get some information back from them first, and then see where council wants to go. It just makes more sense to, you know, have it from them, and then, you know, get council support if they think it's worth it as well. Call the question. All in favor? Carried. Councilor's business. Councilor Norbury, thank you for your report from Northern Lights College.
I did. My name was on the email, not on the form, so I think it got missed in the, or the NO. 11.2. Yeah.
Oh, sorry, I was just flipping over to see what that one was. Okay. So,
That's all I had.
okay, and then thank you, Councillor Julik. We can, Councillor Oksana, I am really, I don't know, sorry. Sorry, my apologies. I don't know, maybe you need to move. if maybe we can just maybe make a motion to have that changed so that we don't have to do it in business arising or the errors or omission when we approve the minutes. So if you want to just change 11.2 to your name would be great. Councillor Noxana.
I would like to make a motion that we change 11.2 to Councillor Noxana.
Seconder? I'll second that. Discussion? All in favor? Carried. Sorry about that. Okay, and is there any other councillor business? Okay, I have a couple. One was I met with Kelly Lake First Nation. I met with Chief Callahoo and some of his board members. I met with them with Ms. Torval, just a meet and greet, get to know each other, and then carry on a dialogue after that. So to be honest, we've reached out to all of our First Nation partners, Westmo, Soto, McLeod Lake, Kelly Cree Nations, Kelly Cree Nation Society. And as we get answers back, I'm just going to do a meet and greet, introduce who I am, and then work with them and then hopefully, involve council and get board to board and directors together. Westmo and Soto have been very busy. McLeod has responded. I'm not sure when we're going to set up a meeting, but it'll be, we'll probably meet and chat one just to make it part way. I'm more than willing to drive all the way to McLeod Lake. I told him that. I do not expect him to travel to Tumbler Ridge. I think it's only right that, I travel to wherever they want me to. Kelly Lake drove into Tumbler. We had a great lunch. Lots of questions, lots of knowledge. Chief Callahoo is a great man and willing to share his knowledge and the information that they have. So I think it'd be a great working relationship once we get to meet them all. Councillor Julik.
I just was hoping that you also had, Kelly Lake also has a Métis Nation, and there is also the BC First, or Métis Nation as well. I don't know if there's a representative up this way. Just putting that bug in your ear.
Yeah, I'll be honest with you, staff's reached out to them all. I don't, no disrespect to the executive assistant, but I know she reached out to everybody, and as she's getting responses back, she fills me in and we try to make a date that works for them and then myself. So I plan to try to meet with everybody, and keep council up to date. I do not have the notes from my Northern Health meeting that I had. I'll be honest with you, it was a last minute email to Melanie, who graciously was in the community of Tumbler Ridge and was able to meet over at Town Hall at a fairly quick rate, so I did not get a chance to invite council, especially the Health Task Force. So normally I'm not a big fan of meeting with representatives when we have a task force. Unless it's something else, there's meetings that do happen with Northern Health and myself, that it's just an update on a quarterly basis with Melanie and her boss. But other than that, normally I would have sent out an email, but it was a quick response. I think it was about 30 minutes difference, and we met. We just talked about in regards to nursing staffing, diversions, some of the concerns, I believe. Whether you follow Facebook or not, that is one way of contacting mayor and council. I've been definitely tagged in a few posts. I made my comments on there well known of the information I received. That is when Melanie and I met. We talked, tried to get some information from their side just to make sure that I wasn't wrong and got the right clarity when I called into Northern Health. And it's true facts, Northern Health was not on diversion. There were some concerns in regards to our ambulance being out on a transfer and coming back into our community and having an employee sick. I'm sorry, I think we all run into that. So I do have a meeting with BC Ambulance coming up on Friday, just to see what we can partner up with, work with, get better clarity from dispatch from their side and back to our fire department with Chief Curry and go from there. And I know Chief Curry, I can't speak for Chief Curry, but I know talking with Northern Health and even late comments with BCMS, I know they've all had, they're having their late meetings on their own too. So, definitely don't want to step on any toes with Chief Curry and the meetings that they're having, but just to get more clarity from them and back to council. When I met with Northern Health, I did invite them to Let's Talk. I make that promise, and I'm going to hold that promise. It's not a headhunt. It's not a witch hunt. It's not a big get out there and have an argument. I'm there to support Northern Health, and I will be there to support Northern Health. I am there to support the residents of Tumbler Ridge as well. And I think the biggest thing is getting the information out there and being straightforward with that information. And I think that's what Northern Health can bring. and having people be able to ask those questions right to Northern Health. I mean, obviously they can't talk on the cases or the whatever. I mean, they would have to stay out of that. But just general what's going on and why it's happening. So hopefully, it sounds like Northern Health has taken us up on the offer and my offer to attend Let's Talk. Again, there for support and to work through the concerns we may have. To me, when it comes to Northern Health, we've spent a lot of taxpayer dollars in previous 2 councils that I was on in regards to upping wages for agency nurses to sign on to come up to make sure we had coverage for a week or a 2-week basis, free room at the apartments that we have, the passes and such. We've spent a lot of taxpayer dollars in regards to healthcare. And I seen a post today in regards to possible diversions. That's scary, and I understand, and we're not the only ones that are there that we go on diversion. Chetwynd has, and I feel for Chetwynd as well. But we're an hour and a half from anywhere, right? And that's transfer, where you drive yourself. So hopefully we can get clarity on that part, especially when we spent so much tax dollars in regards to nursing. That is the idea of Let's Talk. So hopefully council will support that and realize that, we're there to support them too, not that we, as long as it's true facts, I guess. I just want to make sure council's aware that was my idea. Ms. Torval sat in the meeting and that was my promise to Northern Health. I think we need to have that dialogue. I think our residents deserve that dialogue with Northern Health. I think we have, and this is by far no bad ill comments to our nurses, our doctors, our x-ray, our lab. I mean, I've been over the clinic. I mean, we have amazing staff, but you can only work so much. And if you have somebody, like we have one on some maternity, people get sick. We see it time and time again, but, this is the hope. And I guess, from the health task force, if you guys are hearing things, if you guys can keep us updated, especially on the diversion part of it. Because it is scary when we hear we're going on diversion and, we only have 1 ambulance in town, a fire department that and to me, they're volunteers, the other paid staff, but they're working a lot as well, so. Councilor Norbury.
Thank you, Mayor Kukalka. Just as you're speaking, a lot of what you're saying really struck a chord with me. And, I made my comments earlier. If there's a lack of information, people will fill that void of information with what they feel is information or misinformation. And without a full-time administrator in Tumbler Ridge, and it's not a dig at anybody, it's just it is what it is, there is that level of lack of understanding, of awareness of what's happening with our healthcare system, and people want to know. So having that face-to-face, hear it from the horse's mouth type discussion, I think would be absolutely beneficial to our community, and it's needed. Thank you for bringing that up.
Thank you for supporting. Councillor Julie.
I think it's scary when you can't get the health care and you have somebody sick in your home. And that's where I think a lot of those comments that come on Facebook come from. They come from fear for your family and stuff. And I appreciate that. I think we all have to take a really big, deep breath, because the information that I'm getting is that we are going to be short-staffed in BC for 12 years. This is going to be an ongoing problem. I appreciate Northern Health being given the opportunity to come, and I hope that one of us on council or we have a staff member there to support them while they're there, because I feel like, just to make sure that we can kind of temper some stuff, because fear doesn't always bring out the best in any of us. So I think if they're able to make it, that's great. And thanks for bringing that up. I just think we need to be really conscious with keeping the staff that we have and letting the staff that are here know that they're appreciated. And I'm quite sure they know a lot of that stuff comes from fear too. So thanks.
Yeah, no, and I appreciate that. And I don't think it's just BC that's going to be short for 12 years or more. It's Canada. It's pretty much, to me, the world, in my opinion, when it comes to nursing, doctors and stuff like that. But yeah, and I'm there. I mean, that's to me, I think we're there at the Let's Talk. And I think that's, to me, our job as mayor and council is to make sure that the meeting is supported and, in a good way. I mean, are people hot and excited? I think they have the opportunity, as long as it's the respecting. And, I think staff does a great job, and staff will be able to advertise it in that way too when we talk about Let's Talk. But that's just my thoughts there. And that's all I have. It was pretty late for me for this week. I got a busy week this week and then next week as well. So, question and answer period. None. Last time I forgot to ask. So, resolution to closed. So, Councillor Julik.
that the February 21st, 2023 regular council meeting be closed to the public pursuant to subsection 91C, E, and J of the Community Charter to permit discussion of items related to C, labor relations or other employee relations, E, the acquisition, disposition, or expropriation of land or improvements if the council considers that disclosure could reasonably be expected to harm the interests of the municipality, and J, information that is prohibited or information that if it were presented in a document would be prohibited from disclosure under section 21 of the Freedom of Information and Protection of Privacy Act.
Seconder? Councillor Hoff?